You know what's worse than public embarrassment? Planning it yourself. I didn't mean for it to happen that way. I thought I was being smart, strategic, romantic, even in a postmodern, morally unhinged kind of way. I wanted the truth, and I wanted her to feel safe enough to give it. And yes, maybe I wanted the audience to. Proof. For me. For everyone. Which is how I ended up proposing to Claire on live national television during a lie detector test. Let me explain. There's this show, Heartstrings, Truth or Love. The premise is idiotic, obviously. Couples come on, answer polygraph questions about their relationships, and either leave with an engagement ring or separate Ubers. It's part Maury, part Black Mirror. The kind of show where people cry while a studio audience eats popcorn. I signed us up after Claire accidentally called me Brad in her sleep for the third time. There's no Brad in her family, or mine, but there is one in her contacts, saved as Bradman. So, yeah, suspicion. But I couldn't just confront her. Claire has this way of flipping guilt like pancakes, golden, fluffy, and somehow my fault. So I thought, I'll trap the truth. Put it in a chair. Wire it up. Ask the questions. If she's innocent, great. If she's not, I'd have receipts. Except then I panicked. Because what if she was innocent? And I dragged her onto national television like some desperate, gaslit loser? So I came up with the perfect move to balance the stakes. I'd propose to her during the test, right after she said she loved me. It'd be heartfelt, heroic. Everyone would cry, especially me. And they did cry. Just not for the right reasons. The host, Denny Flames, who looked like a washed-up magician and smelled like Axe and decaf coffee, smiled at us like we were toddlers about to be told Santa was fake. Claire, he said, oozing charisma like a sunburn oozes regret. Do you love Michael? Claire smiled. It was soft, familiar, a look she used to give me before we started sharing a toothbrush drawer. Yes, she said. The polygraph beeped. Lie. But first, let's rewind a little bit. I met Claire at a hardware store, which should have been a red flag in itself because neither of us owned tools. She was standing in the aisle between hammers and socket wrenches, holding a plunger like she was contemplating a career change. I asked her if she needed help, and she laughed, like really laughed. The kind that makes you feel like you just told the best joke in the world when really you just stated the obvious. She said, I don't even own a toilet. I just like the way it feels to browse like I know what I'm doing. That was Claire. Every room she walked into, she didn't belong in, but somehow she ran it anyway. We got coffee that day. That turned into a dinner. That turned into 2 years of cohabitating confusion, chaos, and chemistry strong enough to erase logic. She moved in after 4 months. She brought one suitcase and 17 different skincare products. She said she wanted simple love, but her side of the bathroom looked like Sephora had detonated. Still, we were close. Ridiculously close. Sunday pancakes, forehead kisses, Netflix passwords kind of close. We'd fall asleep tangled together like earbuds, waking up in knots that felt earned. She called me Mickey in private. I let her. No one else ever got to call me anything soft. She told me about her childhood. About her mom who never stayed in one place and her dad who did but shouldn't have. She said commitment scared her, and I took that as a challenge instead of a caution sign. I thought if I just loved her better, more gently, more loudly, more consistently, she'd stay. And for a while, she did. Or she seemed to. But little things started to pop up. Slippery things. The wrong name whispered once during a dream. A guy's hoodie she claimed was mine that I'd never seen before. An Uber receipt at 1 a.m. from a neighborhood she said she didn't know anyone in. I asked questions. She kissed me like a shield and said, Do you really think I'd lie to you? I didn't want to think that. So I didn't. Instead, I doubled down. I took her out more. I started planning for a future. I even looked at rings. And when I saw an ad for heartstrings, truth or love, it felt like destiny. A fun little test. A show of trust. A way to prove, to myself, mostly, that she was who she said she was. I signed us up. She said yes, smiling like I'd just asked her to a picnic. We didn't know it yet, but we were walking into a reality TV meat grinder. And Claire, for all her charm, was about to test just how far a lie could stretch in front of an audience before it snapped in front of me. I never wanted to be famous, especially not for being the guy whose girlfriend said yes to a marriage proposal while a lie detector machine had a full-blown seizure behind her. That was never the plan. The plan was simple: ask a few questions, get a few honest answers, sleep at night again. Maybe laugh about it later. Maybe even marry her if it turned out I was just paranoid. But paranoia doesn't usually book you a spot on national television. That takes commitment and a little desperation. Claire was beautiful, clever, the kind of person who could lie with her eyes and still make you feel like the guilty one. She had this voice, half apology, half lullaby. It made it easy to believe her when she told me I was the only one. It made it hard to believe my gut when it whispered, "Check her phone." I didn't check her phone. I checked us into heartstrings, truth or love. A polygraph test on camera in front of a studio audience. It was supposed to be therapeutic, bold, transparent, and yeah, a little bit theatrical. But somewhere between signing the waiver and her strapping into the polygraph chair, I forgot something important. Claire doesn't lose. Not publicly. So what did she do when she saw the lights, the cameras, and the ring in my hand? She smiled. She said yes. And the lie detector bled static like a dying robot. That was the moment everything broke. My dignity, the illusion, the honeymoon suite reservation. All of it. Publicly. Hilariously. I guess this is the story of how I proposed to a lie and how the lie said yes. And so, "Claire," he said, "do you love Michael?" "Yes," she said. The polygraph beeped. A lie. The audience gasped. A woman in the front row dropped her Twizzlers. My heartbeat sounded like bad jazz in my ears. Claire blinked, laughed awkwardly. "That machine's insane," she said, shaking her head. "I do love you." "Another question?" Denny asked. "Maybe something fun?" I cleared my throat. "I have one." Claire turned toward me, still strapped to wires and heartbeat monitors. It should have looked ridiculous, but it didn't. It looked final. Like a courtroom. Like judgment. I got down on one knee. Yes, while she was still in the polygraph chair. The audience screamed. Denny covered his mic and muttered, "Jesus Christ." A camera zoomed in. "Claire," I said, already regretting the angle, "will you marry me?" She teared up. Genuine tears. "I think." "Yes," she whispered. "Lie." The polygraph machine lit up like a damn Christmas tree. Someone in the back actually laughed. A man coughed and shouted, "Run, Bureau." I stood there, holding the ring like a total clown. Claire blinked again, as if trying to mentally power off the machine. I looked at her. She looked at me. The audience roared, unsure if they were watching comedy or tragedy. So what happens after your fiancé lies on national television, in real time, and the entire country watches your soul leave your body? Well, first, confetti. No, I'm not joking. They still launch the confetti cannons. Apparently, once the "yes" is uttered, regardless of the polygraph screaming lie in digital Morse code, the crew hits the button. It was in the script. So there I was, kneeling like an idiot, covered in red and white paper snowflakes while my now viral fiancé blinked at me like maybe I was the one lying. The host, Denny Flames, the human embodiment of a canceled Vegas act, wrapped things up with forced laughter and a final camera wink. Well, folks, love isn't always honest, but it's always entertaining. See you next week on Truth or Love. Then came the backstage silence. That kind of silence you only get after a car crash or a disastrous Thanksgiving. Claire pulled the wires off like she was shedding a second skin. Her hands were shaking, but her voice wasn't. "You embarrassed me," she said. I just stared. "The machine embarrassed you, Claire." "Oh, please," she snapped. "Those things aren't accurate. It's not a magic 8 ball. Claire, it lit up like you robbed a bank when you said you loved me." She rolled her eyes. "And yet here you are, still holding the ring." She had a point. That ring suddenly felt like a loaded weapon. Security ushered us out the side door. No limo. No champagne. Just a middle-aged assistant with a clipboard handing us a voucher for the free honeymoon trip the show paid for. Don't forget to tag us in photos, she chirped. Tag who? The show? Or the moment my dignity flatlined? On the drive home, we didn't speak. She scrolled Instagram. I stared at a dead fly on the dashboard and wondered if it had died before or after it witnessed my public collapse. Later that night, she came into the bedroom in one of those thin robes that always made my brain turn to soup. You still want to go to Aruba? She asked. I mean, the tickets are non-refundable. I don't know. She smiled, sat beside me, ran a hand through my hair. Maybe the test was wrong. It was the first time I realized Claire's superpower wasn't lying. It was convincing you that you were the crazy one for believing anything else. I said yes. Again. Because even after all that, I wasn't ready to face the truth. I needed just a few more days of the fantasy. Even if the sand was real and the love was fake, I figured I'd rather sunburn with a liar than shiver alone in the truth. The honeymoon was the calm before the final, glorious storm. And even now, I can't decide if I regret it or just admire how perfectly stupid I was. We still went on the honeymoon. We went to Aruba. The ocean was gorgeous. So was Claire. When we weren't arguing over whether polygraphs were scientifically reliable, we were posting happy beach photos for people who didn't watch the episode. The ring was real. The engagement wasn't. But we smiled anyway. By day 3, she was texting someone named L. By day 5, I asked her point blank, "Is there anyone else?" She paused, bit her lip, then said, "Do you really want to know?" I didn't, but I nodded. "There are a few," she said. "But I love you, Michael. Just maybe not exclusively." I spent the rest of the trip sleeping on a hammock. She slept in the room. I assumed not alone. The clip of her saying yes, while the machine screamed lie, hit 8.2 million views in a week. People stitched it with clips of raccoons stealing food and kids getting hit with dodgeballs. I got a minor brand deal with a dating app called Truth. Claire? She went private on Instagram and started selling energy crystals. One of them's called Bradmanite. I'm not bitter, just aware. They say love is a gamble. Mine was televised. It was day 3 in Aruba. We were pretending to be happy, and for a while, I almost believed it. The resort had this sickeningly romantic vibe. Tiki torches, couples massages, sunset dinners, all that Hallmark Channel garbage. Claire wore white sundresses like she was auditioning to be someone's second wife, not the woman who'd just detonated a relationship on cable television. And I was floating. Not quite swimming, not quite drowning. Just suspended, waiting for some kind of resolution that wouldn't make me feel like a moron. Then, one night, we were in the hotel room. I'd just gotten out of the shower, and she was sitting on the balcony, sipping a mojito and scrolling through her phone like it was a life support machine. I leaned in and kissed her shoulder. She flinched, just a little. I asked again, "Claire, just tell me, that polygraph, were you seeing anyone else? Even just texting someone? I need to know. You owe me that." She didn't answer right away. She just laughed, but not a funny laugh. One of those dry, sharp ones that come before someone drops a bomb. "You know," she said, swirling the ice in her drink. "When we first got together, I really didn't think I'd like you. That was not what I expected. But then I did," she added, like it was a favor. "For a while. I waited. And yes, okay, some of the guys I mentioned that night, yeah, I slept with them while I was with you." She said it like she was listing items she forgot to pack. Toothbrush, sandals, oh, and casual betrayal. I couldn't move. "How many?" I asked. The words scraped my throat. Like, "How many, or how many you know about?" She countered, not missing a beat. I said nothing. That was her answer. She named them, casually, like ex-colleagues. The barista from that overpriced cafe near our apartment. The photographer friend who took her weird black and white portraits. The personal trainer she said gave her free tips at the gym. And, cherry on top, a guy named Chase, who she met while shopping for my birthday gift. She smiled when she mentioned him. Him, out of all of them. "You remember that watch I got you?" she asked, as if reminiscing. Chase helped me pick it out. We had sex in his car after. Then I wrapped the gift and came home to you. I wish I could say I threw something, that I screamed, that I made some dramatic exit. But I didn't. I just stood there in a towel, dripping on the resort's tile floor, feeling like someone who forgot what gravity was. My ears were ringing. I think part of me left the room that night and never came back. You don't even feel bad, I whispered. Claire tilted her head, honestly confused. Michael, you literally brought me to a polygraph show. Who does that to someone they trust? That's when I got it. That was the twisted logic of it all. In her mind, my suspicion justified the betrayal. Like I deserved to be lied to just for daring to ask. And the worst part? I almost accepted that. Almost. Because when someone you love looks you dead in the eye and tells you that truth is optional, it does something to your spine. It makes you hollow. It makes you dangerous to yourself. I didn't leave that night. I slept next to her one last time. But in the morning, I canceled the flight home for two. She flew back alone. I stayed another 3 days. And for the first time in 2 years, I actually slept. Claire went from 2,000 to 80,000 in 48 hours after the episode aired. Her Instagram, which had once been a sporadic stream of brunch plates and sunset selfies, turned into a curated gallery of tropical thirst traps, cryptic captions, and heavily filtered shots of her face looking solemn, like she was mourning the man she just publicly incinerated. The ring stayed on her finger, not because she wore it with pride, but because it was content. A prop, something that gleamed in soft lighting and paired well with hashtags like hashtag torn between love and truth and hashtag reality hurts. I saw the comments. Queen behavior. She said yes even though he didn't trust her. Iconic. Gaslight, gatekeep, goddess. And Claire responded to all of it. Not to clarify, not to deny, but to cultivate it. She knew exactly what she was doing. I started noticing patterns. She'd only post the clips where I looked unhinged. The moment I fumbled the ring box, the second the polygraph beeped, and I blinked like I'd just been slapped by God. She left out the part where I told her I loved her, where I cried like a fool in front of a studio audience and 35 strategically placed GoPros. She started doing interviews. The girl who said yes while the polygraph said no. That was the narrative, not why the polygraph screamed. Not what she was hiding, not the months of deception. Just the spectacle, the meme. She didn't defend herself. She didn't need to. Her silence became the performance. Every no comment was a wink. Every evasive answer was retweeted by people who thought they were in on the joke. But the real joke was me. I'd scroll through her stories, sponsored posts, beauty tutorials, motivational quotes written in flowery fonts over topless beach photos. Always the same underlying message. She had risen above. She was liberated. She was a survivor. Of what exactly? Me? That's when it hit me. Claire hadn't just lied. She hadn't just cheated. She had orchestrated the whole thing. Not consciously, maybe not with a whiteboard and flowcharts, but emotionally, spiritually. She chose to rise by stepping on my spine. The moment I said, "Let's go on that show," she must have known the outcome. And she didn't stop it. Because for Claire, humiliation wasn't a side effect. It was the price of admission. I remembered something she'd once said, back when we were still happy, when I was still blind. If I ever get famous, I want it to be for something unforgettable. She got her wish. My collapse was her launch pad. And I, stupidly, had lit the fuse. 3 weeks after Aruba, I got an email from a legal department with a name so bland it sounded made up, Vigilant Entertainment Legal and Standards. The subject line was just as soulless. Regarding Episode 3, Honeymoon Travel Discrepancy. It was 4 paragraphs of corporate throat-clearing followed by the real punchline. Claire's solo departure from the island, 3 days early, unaccompanied, unannounced, was in direct violation of her contract. Specifically, the clause that stated both participants must complete the agreed-upon post-episode honeymoon experience together unless separation is due to medical emergency, death, or security breach. None of those applied, unless emotional whiplash counted as a fatal wound. The show's lawyers wanted their money back. Airfare, hotel, spa services, the fake champagne in our sweet fridge, it added up to a bill of $7,460.92, plus a vague threat about damages to the show's brand integrity. They sent it to me because I was the one who'd filled out the initial honeymoon form. My name was on the booking. I forwarded it to Claire with no message. I didn't need one. She responded 3 days later with a single line. You brought me on a show to expose me. You're lucky I didn't fly out on day one. That was her defense. That was her retribution. And honestly, it tracked. Claire didn't break rules so much as she stepped over them with 6-inch heels and blamed the sidewalk. In her mind, the lie detector, the cheating, the flight home, it was all part of the same theme. Michael pushed, Claire snapped, and somehow that made it even. I called the show's office, explained the situation, that she left early, that I stayed, that I paid for my meals, didn't trash the hotel, even tipped the guy who brought me bottled water when I couldn't stop dry heaving at the sight of our king-size bed. The intern who answered sounded like she was 12. She put me on hold, came back, and chirped, "Yeah, unfortunately, that's still considered a violation. You two were cast as a unit. So if the unit breaks the terms, the unit pays." They sent me a payment portal link with a logo that somehow managed to feel smug. Claire never paid a dime. For her, it was the smallest tax on a much larger reward. But for me, that $7,460.92 wasn't just a bill. It was a receipt for the entire charade. Proof that loving her had always come with hidden fees, unread clauses, and fine print that only revealed itself when everything was already on fire. Sometimes I still get recognized, usually at airports or gas stations, always by someone who squints at me like they're trying to remember if I was their high school math teacher or someone who once ran over their cat. Then it clicks. Oh my God, you're the guy. The proposal guy. Lie detector guy. That was wild, man. They laugh like we're sharing a memory. Like I wasn't the punchline. It doesn't sting like it used to. Not because I'm over it. I don't think you get over proposing to someone live on TV only to have a machine scream, "Liar," louder than your own instincts. But it dulls. Shame fades, especially when the internet finds new victims every day. Claire? She's got a podcast now. Something about radical honesty and empowering your narrative. I listened to one episode. She told a sanitized version of our story where I was emotionally distant and manipulative with my trust. She said the lie detector was a symbol of how men fear women's truth. She left out the part where she banged Chase in a mall parking lot while shopping for my birthday present. Fine. Let her have it. The followers, the filtered quotes, the fake vulnerability wrapped in brand deals and sponsored therapy apps. Me? I work in IT. I moved to a quieter city. I dated for a while, but it's hard to trust someone when you once got lied to on national television under fluorescent studio lighting. Still, I sleep now. I drink coffee without flinching. I don't check people's texts over their shoulders. And I keep that $7,460 bill in a drawer. Not out of bitterness, okay, maybe a little, but as a reminder that next time someone makes me feel crazy for asking a simple question, I'll believe myself. You don't need a polygraph to spot the truth. You just need to listen when your gut whispers, "This doesn't feel right," before the cameras roll, before the ring, before the lie becomes a viral clip and your heartbreak becomes someone else's entertainment. And if you're ever tempted to propose on a talk show, don't. Just don't.